I'm an idiot. I'm on mute. See, it's been a while since I've been doing this. So, welcome to No Credentials Required live stream. This is live on Saturday morning. I am barely gotten a cup of coffee in me, but I just want to let you know we are brought to you by Belly Up Sports in association with Godzilla Media. If you're watching on YouTube, welcome on YouTube. If you're watching on Belly Up TV, welcome on Belly Up TV. Pretty excited to be here. I have my schedule's kind of off kilter. I haven't been able to do haven't been able to do any not live streams, but any podcast episodes lately. So this is my opportunity to figure, you know what? I haven't done live in a while. Let's go live. We're doing it live. So again, we're brought to you by Belly Up Sports in association with Godzilla Media. Just want to remind you also about our social media accounts, which are on Twitter and Instagram at NoCredsREQ, Facebook.com/NoCredsREQ, and on YouTube, just search No Credentials Required. If you're watching on YouTube, welcome. Welcome to the show. Leave a comment while I talk about some topics about the NFL free agency and trades. It's been kind of a crazy week. It's funny. It's been kind of a crazy week between the NFL and the NCAA tournament kind of clashing. And also Major League Baseball free agency. I'm not going to talk about that so much, but I'm going to talk about NFL free agency because that's been on my mind lately. Being a New York Jets fan, seeing kind of the under the radar signings that they've done. But my March Madness bracket, I made some. I pulled a Job, and I made some terrible mistakes. I need to eulogize my bracket. It's an outside chance, and I'm doing this with the Godzilla Media tournament bracket on ESPN's challenge, but unfortunately, yep, this is still going. Okay, I'm good to go. So it's interesting. Fired Up is now on BellyUpSports.tv. Interesting. Okay. Oh nope, that's me. That's my face. So, all right. So I had a little technical issue there, but before we go into, I just wanted to ask for your support too, because I've been trying to get one of my missions in 2022 was to grow this brand, grow No Credentials Required, make it one of the best podcasts in the capital district of New York, in the capital region of New York area. Also want to get more noticed nationally because in addition to covering local sports, which I do with the Albany Firewolves, I'll be at the game tonight with the Albany Empire. National Arena League season starts very, very soon, starts next month. Albany, I'm going to start covering the Tri-City Valley Cats, which is our independent baseball league, independent baseball team. And I didn't get a chance to go to a game this year, but I was hoping to cover more of the Adirondack Thunder that kind of fell through the cracks, unfortunately. I give updates every so often, but in addition to covering local sports here in the air and in the capital region area, and covering the New York Jets on BellyUpSports.com, I also do some national interviews. I do interviews with some of our personalities on BellyUpSports.com. I do some interviews with other sports personalities. Watch your toes. I'm going to drop some names. Okay, just watch your toes. Rod Peterson, Brittany Wagner, producer Clark Monroe from the Rod Peterson Show, Coach Jeff Reinbold. I had the chance to interview Kyle Turley during Super Bowl week through Godzilla Media. Got to interview Sean Patrick Flannery last year, which was a pretty unique opportunity. So, I'm trying to grow this brand because this is a one-man operation with no credentials required. I don't have an intern. I don't have staff. I'm a one-man operation. And I just want to let you in. Here's a dirty little secret about the podcast industry. I'm not a full-time podcaster. Shocking, I know. I'm not a full-time podcaster. But this is a part-time job. This is a part-time thing for me. It's a side gig. I got to talk sports for 45 minutes to an hour, twice a week. And this is one of those opportunities because I'm doing this live because my schedule's been off kilter. But yeah, I'm trying to grow this brand. We had over 100 downloads last month. We had over 100 downloads in January. I haven't been consistent this month, just because a lot of things going on in my personal, outside of personal stuff with work and with family. I'm trying to grow this brand into something special. And that's where you come in audience. That's where you come in. All one of you watching right now. But I want to grow this brand. I want to make this the best podcast. Zero now. But I want to grow this brand. I want to grow No Credentials Required, and that's where the audience comes in. Leave reviews. Make a 5-star review. Give a rating. Leave a review. Leave a 5-star rating. People will see that. A lot of the bigger name podcasts out there, they have big sponsors because we have celebrities doing podcasts. Anybody can do a podcast now. Anybody can pick up a phone, start recording, and make some magic. Sometimes it's magic, sometimes it sucks. We're kind of in between. And the thing is also, this show is outside the norm because unlike going on ESPN or going on Fox Sports, there's not a whole lot of screaming on this program. I'm the NPR of the Belly Up Sports and Godzilla Media podcast network. So I've also been called a palate cleanser. Jared from the Corn Booth podcast, he's also doing the one man thing right now. He calls me the palate cleanser of the Belly Up Sports podcast network. So it's kind of funny to hear, but still, tell your friends, tell a friend, tell a phone, tell a friend, tell your enemies about this podcast, because I love interacting with people. I love having fun, and going live is one of those things that I enjoy, and doing podcasts is something I enjoy, and I'm trying to keep this momentum going, and that's where you come in. Please share, subscribe on the podcast. On the podcast side, subscribe, 5-star rating, leave a review. I might even read it on the air sometime. I've done it before. I might do it again. Actually, I will do it again. So if you leave, actually, I'm gonna do something kind of crazy. If you're out there and you're on Apple, Podcasts, if you look on Podchaser or Good Pods or any podcast platform where you can leave a rating, if you leave a 5-star rating and write a review and put it on their social media channels, which is right here, Twitter and Instagram, No Credentials Required, Facebook.com, No Creds REQ. If the next person who writes a review and leaves a 5-star rating, I will send them a t-shirt from our bonfire store, courtesy of me. And that's not the bribe. It's not the bribe. It's just a reward, just to say thank you for noticing this show. So that being said, I'm going to move on to NFL free agency, and this has been a very busy week. We also got some trades. We had some trades beforehand. This week started the legal tampering. Monday started the kind of legal tampering period, which is an odd term for the NFL. Also, we might have some guests on today. I don't know if I sent the beacon out to the Belly Up podcast team, and also to anybody else who is a writer who wants to jump on. I sent the beacon, and hopefully we'll have a guest on, have more voices too. That's another thing I like about podcasts. There's more voices. So anyway, so NFL free agency, the legal tampering period. Again, it's an odd sounding name for free agency, but this is the period when teams can officially start making offers to free agents. And we had ourselves some doozies out there. We also had some big trades happen beforehand, but they can't officially be announced until the free agency period starts. So we had Russell Wilson. He was traded from the Seahawks to Denver. I think it was a Russell Wilson and a 4th round pick this year for Drew Lock, Noah Fant. I can't remember the defensive lineman's name. 2 first-round picks, one this year, one next year, and I believe it was 2 third-round picks. So it's a crazy way to start free agency with a huge trade. So that kind of got things started. And then we had the whole drama with where Aaron Rodgers was going to land, whether he was going to test the free agent market or he's going to stay in Green Bay. He actually wound up staying in Green Bay, but excuse me, I want to take a sip of coffee. But here's the crazy thing, and actually I gotta give full credit to Kev from from um, Corner Booth when we did the pregame on Corner Booth on Thursday. He hasn't officially signed the contract. We haven't seen pen going to paper. We also heard about him signing a 4-year, $200 million contract. Pat McAfee goes on and says it's not true. Aaron Rodgers goes on social media, says it's not true. We don't know what the contract is officially. We won't see it until he officially signs a tender or signs some sort of commitment or 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 deal. So it's a weird situation up in Green Bay. But not only that, we also see franchise tags being tagged on certain players. Devontae Adams, he got tagged. Dalton Schultz, he gets tagged. David Njoku, he gets tagged. Um, Mike Gesicki from the Dolphins, he gets tagged. So you see a lot of tight ends getting tagged, getting the franchise tag, which means that unless you're offering a first round pick to sign this player, uh, we're going to keep him. We're going to assign him to a 1-year tender. And why this tab is playing audio, I don't know. Let's put it on mute. Okay. So we see a lot of. Okay. We're going to put you on mute. Thank you. Sorry, another tab's playing music is distracting. So we see tight ends we see a lot of tight ends getting franchise tagged. We see a lot of different other players got franchise tagged. Jesse Bates from the Bengals, he got franchise tagged, which is kind of a double-edged sword for the Bengals because that left a certain tight end who was very important in their Super Bowl in their Super Bowl run or run to the Super Bowl. Uh, he was available as a free agent. So I'm just going to kind of go through every team and also talk about yesterday's big trade. Actually, Devontae Adams getting traded from the Packers to the Raiders for a first and second round pick this year. I gotta wonder what that trade was all about. I gotta figure one of two things for the Green Bay Packers. Either they saw a wide receiver who had sort of the same skills as Devontae Adams, and they really liked him, and they wanted to get some draft capital so they could draft him so nobody else could get him. Or the Raiders are, and actually I think the second part is the more truer part. The Raiders are in a win now mode. They signed Chandler Jones to a contract. They signed they also traded for Devontae Adams, and Devontae Adams already has a pre-existing friendship and a relationship with Derek Carr because they were teammates at Fresno State. So Derek Carr getting basically his best friend in the world back and playing with him makes the Raiders a very dangerous team to watch in the AFC West next year. The AFC West is going to be fun to watch next year. Russell Wilson, Herbert, Wilson, you got Herbert, you got Mahomes, and now you got Carr. And people, we hear about Derek Carr being maligned, and I think a lot of that slander is undue. It's unjust because he hasn't had the talent around him to succeed, and now he's got his best friend in the whole world, Devontae Adams, as his primary receiver. So you got that trade. That was a fun trade. And then you had yesterday afternoon, the rumors. Well, actually Thursday afternoon, you had the rumors of Deshaun Watson being traded from Houston to Cleveland, and then Baker Mayfield got very sensitive about it. And I get it. Unfortunately, this is the way the business goes, but that's how the business goes. So then, so Deshaun Watson initially says no, and then yesterday afternoon, the big news comes out that Deshaun Watson has agreed to basically what's a sign and trade deal with the Browns. 4 years, I think $230 million, all of it guaranteed. I mean, how do you get that kind of money? It's crazy. But Baker Mayfield is we had a tweet on Belly Up Sports yesterday. So it said, "What's Baker Mayfield thinking right now?" And I had to retweet it, and I said, right now he's writing his love letter to Cleveland to post in the do a full page ad in the daily in the in the big rags of newspaper rags of Cleveland. And it's true. I mean, it sucks for Baker Mayfield. Dude brought him to a playoff spot, almost come to the AFC Championship back in 2020. But this year he got hurt. There was a lot of inconsistency. Odell Beckham Jr. drama, which turned out to be in his favor because he was released and he's Super Bowl champion. Which by the way, OBJ is still a free agent out there, and he's coming off an ACL injury. He tore his ACL again in this past year's Super Bowl. So it's going to be interesting to see where he goes. I think personally, I think he stays in. I think he stays in LA. He'll probably heal up. He'll probably won't be back until midseason, and Rams will probably win another Super Bowl. But that's neither here nor there. So let me take a look at some of the notable uh, free agency pickups that for each team. So starting in Buffalo Bills, they bring in Roger Saffold, guard who was released from Tennessee. OJ Howard was signed. Uh, Shaq Lawson was brought back in. He was with the Jets last year for basically 14 games. Here's a big signing. Von Miller, who won a Super Bowl with the Rams this past offseason, was after he was traded from Denver to Los Angeles with the Rams. He's a free agent. He signs a 6-year, $120 million contract, $51 million in guarantees. He's going to average $17.5 million for the first 4 years. Now, I kind of thought it was a bit of a risk for the Bills, considering that Von Miller's 31 years old. But then again, I'm 44. I'm completely out of shape, and Von Miller is 31 years old and in the prime of his life and playing football for a living. So that's neither here nor there. But the comparison game. But for the Bills, they actually have an edge rusher now. They have a guy who could come off the edge and completely wreak havoc for every AFC team that gets in their way. Last year, the Bills were this close to beating the Chiefs in the divisional playoff. And the biggest reason why is because their defense played prevent defense, and they only sent three guys in for a pass rush and sent everybody else back deep, and that enabled the Chiefs to tie the score. That's not here, but again, past history. Von Miller with the Bills, he's going to be that was a huge pickup for him, for the Bills, and for their defense pass rush, because they don't sack the quarterback a whole lot unless you're the New York unless you're playing the New York Jets. They don't sack the quarterback a whole lot. Miami Dolphins, not too many big pickups. They signed Teddy Bridgewater as a backup, 1 year, $6.5 million, fully guaranteed. He can earn up to $10 million with incentives. Chase Edmonds, formerly of the Cardinals, he signs a 2-year contract. Raheem Mostert, he signs a 1-year contract. That kind of short. It's a little bit of stability for the Dolphins at running back position. Mike Gesicki, as I mentioned, was designated a franchise tag. They signed Cedric Wilson to a 3-year deal, $12.75 million guaranteed. New England Patriots, oddly quiet, considering last year they had made all signings on the offense to give Mac Jones some weapons to throw to, but they've been kind of oddly quiet. And the one trade that they actually wound up making one trade. They traded Chase Winovich to Cleveland for linebacker Mac Wilson. So I guess you could say that was the notable pickup for the Patriots. Otherwise, it's been kind of quiet. They signed Terrence Mitchell to a free agent contract. Some of the guys they've re-signed, like Brian Hoyer, James White, Devin McCourty, to a 1-year deal. Nick Folk they retained. And then we go to my New York Jets. I am so excited about this team. They signed Tyler Conklin and CJ Uzomah. Both of these guys are going to be part of a tight end room, and I'm kind of fearful that they won't go after Trey McBride in the draft now. I was kind of hoping at pick 38, which is kind of a reach for everyone. Trey McBride would be selected by the Jets. Every Jets fan is now a Trey McBride stan. That includes me. But unfortunately, I think the Jets going to move on from there because they've got two tight ends in TJ and Tyler Conklin and CJ Uzomah who can do all the things in that system, in that offensive system that Mike LaFleur has, and can be not only a terrific run blocker, but also a safety valve for Zach Wilson. So you got that. Laken Tomlinson, which was, I believe, the biggest pickup for the Jets because they needed to solidify right guard. And Laken Tomlinson played left guard last year, but a lot of people don't remember that he played right guard at Duke, and he transitioned to left guard when he went to the NFL. So right now, the Jets have solidification at left guard with Elijah Tucker. He's going to be the left guard. Right guard is going to be Laken Tomlinson. If something happens to Vera Tucker, swing Laken Tomlinson to the right side and put Connor McGovern at right guard and see who goes at center, or have somebody at or maybe put in Dan Feeney at guard because they retained him as well. 3 years, $40 million, $27 million guaranteed, max value $41.2 million. That's a pretty good signing. I mean, it's a bit of a reach for a 31-year-old tackle, but again, or 31-year-old guard, but again, I'm 44 years old and out of shape, so I have no room to criticize. So Laken Tomlinson, he says he signs with the team. DJ Reed, corner from Seattle, he signs. Jordan Whitehead, he signs. He gives the Jets a little bit more of an edge at in the run defense game, which was kind of weak last year. So it's going to be, he gives them a little bit of sandpaper in the run stopping game. So I that's what the Jets needed, and I like that. I like that. Baltimore Ravens, they signed Morgan Moses. He was a backup tackle with the Jets last year. Got a 3-year deal. Michael Pierce, defensive tackle, he signs a 3-year deal. Marcus Williams, who I kind of wanted the Jets to get before they decided on Whitehead. He signed a 5-year, $70 million contract with Baltimore. These are very smart moves for Baltimore because they had a running list of guys go down every single week. And the thing is, if the Ravens have some of their starting guys in from last year, they win the North. They win the AFC, not Cincinnati, but Baltimore wins the NFC North, I believe, in my opinion. Cincinnati, they lose Uzomah, but they signed guard Alex Kappa to kind of. They signed Alex Kappa and Ted Karras to 4- and 3-year deals respectively, and that helps. That's going to help Joe Burrow because that offensive line was absolutely gassed by the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl, and they were doing well in the first 3 quarters, but when the fourth quarter came around, trying to defend, trying to block for Joe Burrow, while this Rams defensive line, which is monstrous, is coming at him at every step of the way. They just got gassed, and they should have kept running the ball. They couldn't protect Joe Burrow, and he gets, and you see the last play of the game, Aaron Donald getting right to Joe Burrow on that 4th and short to seal the game for the Rams. That was a problem, and that's something that the Bengals needed to address, and they brought in Kappa and Karras at guard and line, which I suspect that Ted Karras is probably a tackle or a guard or center. So he probably swings around. He'll probably swing around with the offensive line. Jesse Bates gets a franchise tag. So the Bengals they lose Uzomah, but they actually wound up signing Hayden Hurst from the Atlanta Falcons. Cleveland Browns, they're doing most of their acquisitions via trade. So they picked up Deshaun Watson. They picked up Amari Cooper last Saturday in exchange for a 5th round pick, and they also swapped 6 rounders. So they get Amari Cooper kind of on the cheap when it comes to trade value. And they also trade for Trace Winovich, who I guess didn't fit in to Bill Belichick's defensive system, but he might fit in with this system here in in Cleveland. Pittsburgh Steelers, they sign Mitchell Trubisky, who I'm going to give full credit here to Coach Steve from the Coach Steve podcast. I can listen to his stuff. He's a one man, just like me. He's a one man show. But not only is he doing podcasting, he's also coaching 3 different sports, and good for him. God bless him. But he was very humble in the fact that he said, yeah, we a lot of times we blamed Mitch Trubisky for all the stuff that happened with him with the Bears, but it was actually Matt Nagy's fault. And it kind of was, because Matt Nagy was not a very, very good head coach of the Chicago Bears. Had a great first season, went back to the playoffs in 2020, and this past season not great. But Mitchell Trubisky, he's going to have a chance to compete with Dwayne Haskins and Mason Rudolph for the quarterback position, for the starting quarterback position in Pittsburgh. Now, whether or not these 3 guys are just here to compete as a bridge quarterback, we'll see what happens with the draft. A lot of teams are very high on Malik Willis. They're high on, that's the one guy I know that everybody's kind of high on. Also, Pickett, who played at Pitt, So some teams are kind of high on him. They're kind of the running joke is about the smaller hands. It's like, come on, really? Joe Burrow had quote unquote small hands, and he wound up going to the Super Bowl. Same with Alex Smith. He had small hands, and he made a career. He had himself a pretty good career in the NFL. Also, comeback player of the year in 2020. So Alex Smith, awesome. All right, so who else they signed? They signed James Daniels to a 3-year deal, offensive guard that gives him the stability at the guard position. They bring in Miles Jack, who was somehow released in the drunken sailor spending that the Jaguars had, which I'll get to in just a moment. Surprised that they released him. He's been he's been the backbone of that defense for so long. They let him go. Steelers said, okay, we'll pick him up. I was kind of hoping the Jets would pick him up, but I don't know how much Joe Douglas was willing to spend in a guy who earned $4.5 million last year, but was probably going to earn himself a pay raise. But Miles Jack signs with the Steelers. Let's see. Levi Wallace, cornerback, he signs a 2-year deal. So moving on to the AFC South. Houston Texans, very, very busy, as we know, with the trade for Deshaun Watson trade. They're getting a couple picks back from the Cleveland Browns, but haven't been too much. I mean, I could say he's been a little bit busy. Texans have been kind of meh with the free agency, but I think their biggest focus is on the NFL draft. With all those picks they're going to get, from Cleveland. So we're going to move on from there. Indianapolis Colts, not really a whole lot of movement here. The only free agency signing I see forgot they traded Carson Wentz to Washington for some draft picks, but they retained Mo Alley-Cox after Jack Doyle retired. There was kind of uncertainty as to what he was going to do, what Mo Alley-Cox was going to do. He signs a 3-year contract. He gets an extension. They actually wound up trading Rocky Ya-Sin for Yannick Ngakoue, which kind of from the Raiders, and that kind of enabled the Raiders to pick up Chandler Jones. Jacksonville Jaguars. What do you do with a drunken Jaguar? What do you do with a drunken Jaguar? Well, the drunken Jaguar went out and signed a bunch of guys. And I think they overpaid a whole bunch of them too. Zay Jones, 3 years, $24 million. Christian Kirk, who is like the 5th wide receiver on the Cardinals, 4 years, $72 million, $37 million guaranteed, max value of $84 million. What? Evan Ingram, 1-year deal. Brandon Scherf, shore up the offensive line, 3 years, $49.5 million, $30 million guaranteed, $33 million the first 2 years for a guard who I don't think has played a full NFL season since I think 2019, 2018. If I'm wrong, I mean, if you're watching, leave a comment. If I'm wrong. Foley Fatukasi from my New York Jets, 3 years, $30 million. Darius Williams, 3 years, $30 million. Foye Olukone, 3 years, $45 million at linebacker. That's why the Jaguars released Miles Jack. So and Cam Robinson, he received the franchise tag. So Jacksonville doing a whole lot of spending to help their franchise quarterback, Trevor Lawrence. Maybe it's a good thing, maybe it could be a bad thing. I don't know. The Shad Khan era has been kind of a clown show. I wrote an article about that on bellyupsports.com back in January about how the Shad Khan era has been a literal clown show. And the fact that people showed up in clown costumes on the final day of the NFL season in 2021 at TIAA Field. God bless the Jaguars fans. All right, Tennessee Titans. Not a whole lot of movement. Austin Hooper signed to a 1-year deal. He comes over from Cleveland. Jeff Swain, also a tight end, 1-year deal, 3.5. Actually, he agreed to a $3.5 million extension. Buster Screen, he becomes a Titan. Harold Landry actually wound up being extended for $87 million. So he's the backbone of that defense, and he's going to be back with the Titans next year. AFC West, Denver Broncos, lots of movement. Again, lots of movement with the Broncos. Russell Wilson and a fourth round pick for 2 first-round picks for Denver, 2 second-rounders, a 5th rounder, Drew Lock, Noah Fant, and Shelby Harris. There it is. Okay, that's defensive tackle that I missed. So sorry about that. But yeah, they paid a whole lot to get Russell Wilson for how many years? I don't know, but he seems to be the one guy who's going to be the last piece of the puzzle to get the Denver Broncos back to an elite level, because they've got a pretty good defense. Even without Von Miller, they still have a pretty good defense. Let's see here. Josh Johnson, who was with my New York Jets last year and also split time with the Ravens, he signs with a 1-year deal. Calvin Anderson, 1-year contract. Randy Gregory was about a minute away from signing with the Cowboys, and then decided, oh no, oh wait, Russell Wilson's with the Denver Broncos. Oh, and there's Weed and Flagel in Colorado. I'm going to sign with the Broncos. 5 years, $70 million, including $28 million guaranteed. DJ Jones also signs with the Broncos, 3 years, $30 million, $20 million guaranteed. The Jets my New York Jets had an eye on DJ Jones to see what he's going to do. And one guy I had my eye on, I was hoping the Jets would acquire, Alex Singleton, who was a leading tackler last year for the Eagles. He was not offered a contract to come back to the Eagles. He signs a 1-year, $1 million fully guaranteed contract, and which is a nice pay bump, because I think he only made $850,000 last year. So he gets to stay with in the NFL, and he's going to sign with Denver. I believe he's from Montana, so he's not too far away from where he was born. All right, Kansas City Chiefs. People keep forgetting that Kansas City Chiefs are still in the AFC West, but they signed Juju Smith-Schuster 1 year, max value of $10.75 million. They tagged Orlando Brown as a franchise, and with the franchise tag, they signed Justin Reed to a 3-year deal. They retained Frank Clark, gave him an extension with a max value of $36 million. So he lowered his cap value. He actually wound up lowering his cap number, and that's how they were able to get back, able to bring in Juju Smith-Schuster. Las Vegas Raiders. Whew, lots of movement here with the Raiders. Devontae Adams, as I mentioned, he was originally tagged by the Packers and then traded to the Raiders for a 1st-round pick and a 2nd-round pick this year. And according to Ian Rappaport and Tom Pelissero, it says Adams is expected to sign a new contract with the Raiders worth $141.25 million over 5 years, with an average of $28.25 million per year, which is kind of crazy because I think the free agency system is kind of, and the way we pay players is kind of it's weird because I think you should overpay, and this is coming from a guy who used to play offensive line, who used to play in the line. I think you should overpay for your linemen and kind of not overpay for wide receivers unless they're. But this is a star-driven league, and Adams is a star. He's a star player, and he's a guy who can get the yards and get touchdowns. So good on him. It might be bad for the cap situation for the Raiders the next couple of years because they also signed Chandler Jones, $52.5 million over 3 years, 34 mil guaranteed. They also extended Max Crosby, which was a great thing. And the cool thing about that contract extension is that came the day that he decided to get sober. He's been sober for I think 2 or 3 years now. And he signed a contract extension on the day he celebrated his, I think, second year of sobriety, which is really cool. Good for him. Rocky Sin, he was acquired for Yannick Ngakoue. And again, that enabled the Raiders to bring in Chandler Jones. Los Angeles Chargers. This is where it gets really, really spicy. J.C. Jackson, formerly of the Patriots, 5 years, 82.5 mil, 40 million guaranteed. And they also pick up Khalil Mack in a trade with the Bears. Here's the crazy part. The Bears went up trading, I think, 2 first-round picks back in 2018 for Khalil Mack. The Chargers only went up paying a second-round pick in 2022 and a sixth-round pick in 2023 for Khalil Mack. That's bonkers. But that's the way the NFL is. It's just weird. Chase Daniel, he remains the team. Mike Williams gets an extension, 3 years, 60 mil, 40 million guaranteed. And Khalil Mack, I think is the one piece of the puzzle for the Chargers that is going to help them maybe earn a playoff spot. A couple of years ago, I thought I figured the NFC West in 2020 was going to grab not only the divisional spot, but also all 3 wildcard spots. I think the AFC West could do the same in 2020. They could do this in 2022, where not only they have a division winner, but they grab all 3 wildcard spots. That's how I think. I mean, depending on how the draft goes, that's how I might be able to see it. All 4 of these teams go to the playoffs next year. It's crazy. All right, we're going to move on to the NFC. Dallas Cowboys, they franchise tagged Dalton Schultz, which is a shame because that was one guy I really, really wanted in the Jets. DeMarcus Lawrence, he agrees to a 3-year deal, $30 million guaranteed. Leighton Vander Esch, he stays with the team. Michael Gallup, he resigns with the Dallas Cowboys. Dante Fowler agrees to a 1-year contract. He'll help on the edge after Randy Gregory decided to go to Denver. New York Giants, the only 2 big that had some pretty. I mean, they were kind of cash poor to begin free agency, but they went up signing Tyrod Taylor to a 2-year deal, $11 million to back up either back up or start in place of Daniel Jones. But they added some help on the offensive line. They got 2 guys who were previously on the Buffalo Bills. John Feliciano, he signed a contract with the Giants, and Mark Glowinski, who was also with the Bills last year. They have some familiarity with Brian Daboll's offense. They wound up going to the Giants. And the Giants also signed Ricky Seals-Jones to a free agent contract. Philadelphia Eagles, they re-signed Boston Scott. They bring in Hassan Reddick, 3 years, $45 million. That's going to help out their pass rush. I'm going to move pretty quickly here. Washington Commanders, Carson Wentz, he's brought in for a 7th-round pick in 2022. Oh, wait, sorry. So Carson Wentz, along with a 7th-round pick this year, comes to Washington for a 2022 3rd-rounder and a 2023 3rd-rounder, which can be converted to a 2nd-rounder based on Wentz's snap totals. They'll also swap 2022 2nd-round picks. So Commanders trying to find some stability on the quarterback position. Quarterback is not an easy position to play. It's also helpful for the quarterback to stay healthy if your team wants to succeed. Hey, we got 3 viewers. Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining along. NFC North, Chicago Bears. They send Khalil Mack to the Chargers. It's kind of a new era. They bring in Byron Pringle. He's expected to sign a 1-year deal. Equanimeous St. Brown, who comes in from the Packers, he signs a 1-year contract. Not too much movement with the Chicago Bears. I think they're going to focus on the draft. Detroit Lions, they bring in DJ Chark, 1 year, $10 million. They bring in Garrett Griffin. They've also re-signed a bunch of guys who are going to stay in the team. David Blau, Tim Boyle, Evan Brown re-signs a 1-year deal. Charles Harris, he's going to stay with the team. Alex Anzalone's going to stay with the team. CJ Moore's going to stay with the team. So again, for the Lions, not so much movement on the free agency side, but probably going to focus on the draft. I think that's what Dan Campbell has in mind. Green Bay Packers, Aaron Rodgers signs an extension. We're not sure what that extension is. Alan Lazard, he stays with the Green Bay Packers. They sign Devondre Campbell. They actually retained Devondre Campbell and re-sign him to a 5-year deal. Preston Smith, he signs with the team 4 years. He has a 4-year extension, $52.5 million. He has a chance to make $71 million with the Packers. Minnesota Vikings, nothing really standing out. They lost Tyler Conklin to my New York Jets, but they retain Kirk Cousins, which was kind of a curious deal. He stays with the team 1 year, $35 million fully guaranteed extension. But apparently that extension was done to reduce his cap number. They do sign Harrison Phillips to a 3-year, $19.5 million deal. Jordan Hicks, he comes to the team 2 years, $10 million. Jordan Berry, he's retained. He's a punter. I get it. Punters are people too. NFC South. And we come to the losers of, oh my gosh. There's a great tweet. I think it was from Dove Kleiman yesterday, who said that the Falcons were up 28-3 in the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes. But if you're Matt Ryan this morning, are you just a teensy bit upset that your team tried to pick up Deshaun Watson? And it's going to be tough to trade Matt Ryan because he holds a $50 million dead cap space in the Atlanta Falcons cap for the next however many years he's in the league. So that's a bit of a complication there. Not much in terms of movement for the Falcons. They lose Hayden Hurst, but they retain Jake Matthews on a 3-year extension. Young Hui Koo signs a 5-year extension, $24.25 million, $11 million guaranteed. Good for you, Young Wei. Good for you. Carolina, another team that was in the Deshaun Watson discussion. Carolina was they were out. They're looking to shop Christian McCaffrey. I'm not sure why. Might be health concerns. Might be the fact that they're trying to move on. They see somebody in the draft that they want to pick up. But not a whole lot of movement with. They pick up Johnny Hecker from the Rams. Pick up Zane Gonzalez. If you remember that crazy game last year in Buffalo, where the Panthers basically didn't have a kicker for their game because he wound up pulling a hamstring in warmups. They retain DJ Moore. Brandon Zylstra, ex-CFLer, he agrees to a 1-year contract. Deontay Foreman signs a 1-year contract. Marcus Haynes, 2-year contract. So I think Carolina's going to focus on the draft in terms of big moves. New Orleans Saints, they were also supposedly in the Deshaun Watson discussion. They didn't get him. They're probably going to bring back Jameis Winston. They signed Marcus May, but they did sign Marcus May to a 3-year, $28.5 million contract, $15 million guaranteed, ex-Jet. Sad to see him go. Disappointing year last year, especially with he's not coming off a torn Achilles. But we'll see what happens with Marcus May, but I wish him well. I think he kind of needed a change of scenery. Going over the last 4 years, he's been with the Jets. Um, Being on losing teams, I wouldn't blame him if he decided to go somewhere else. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Tom Brady, he's coming out of retirement. He was in retirement as long as Jesus was in the wilderness. So 40 days, 40 days. It is like, yeah, I'm coming back. Shaq Mason brought back, I think it was Ali Marpet who retired, who said, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. And he's gone. But they bring back Shaq Mason. They bring in Shaq Mason, who's a guard, in a trade with the Patriots for a 2022 fifth round pick. Russell Gage, he signs with the Buccaneers. Chris Godwin stays with the Buccaneers. He received a franchise tag, and they later got a contract extension. Ryan Jensen, he re-signs a deal, and he also bring in Logan Ryan, kind of bring in that secondary depth for the Buccaneers. All right, moving along. Arizona Cardinals, they re-sign they retain James Conner, they retain Zach Ertz. They lose Chandler Jones, but again, this is probably going to be a position It's probably going to be a position they focus on the draft, considering their big collapse last year. They need some defensive help. LA Rams, not too many signings here. Allen Robinson, he comes over from the Bears, 3 years, $46.5 million. 49ers, not too many moves here. Charvarius Ward, 3 years, $45 million contract. Ray McLeod stays with the team. They need some help on the offensive line. Again, this is going to be a draft concern. Seattle Seahawks, super busy with that trade the Russell Wilson trade. They get back a whole bunch of players. They do retain Quandre Diggs though, which was a big move that they needed to address. They re-sign him. They lose DJ Reed, but they keep Quandre Diggs, excuse me. And that was a big thing for them. They're in denial about. I think they're a bit of a denial about a rebuild, but they're rebuilding, and I don't think Pete Carroll's going to be there that long. He's 70 years old. I don't think he wants to be involved in a rebuild. And again, even though the Seattle Seahawks aren't saying so, everybody else is. All right, so that was basically my recap. I'm starting to lose my voice here. For NFL free agency trades, we're going to move on to March Madness, and I'm going to do a eulogy for my bracket. I'm currently in the Godzilla Media Tournament Challenge. Let's take a look at my sad bracket. I'm gonna share the screen. I'm gonna share my screen with you guys. All right, so here's my sad bracket. So the West, I had Boise State being Memphis. That didn't happen. I had Alabama being Notre Dame. That didn't happen. I had Davidson beating Michigan State. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. I had Davidson going to the Sweet 16. That just shows you what kind of just shows you how much research I put into making my brackets. But I did have New Mexico State beating UConn, so good for me. Good for me. One of my big upsets came through. My East bracket is actually looking pretty good, except with the exception of Kentucky losing in the first round to St. Peter's, which is okay because I have Murray State going to the Elite Eight and losing to Baylor. Midwest, what a mess. Iowa, I had going to the Final Four. They lose to Richmond in the first round. I had, and here's the thing: South Dakota State, you always seem to disappoint everybody because every college basketball pundit says, "Oh, South Dakota State, they're a dark horse. They're a dark horse to be a 13 to beat a 4 seed or a 2 seed or 3 seed," and they never pull it off. They're over in the NCAA tournament. And they got put in a round with Providence, who was a Big East regular season champion. Nobody saw that coming. And they wound up getting whipped by 9. And I had USC beating Miami. Unfortunately, that didn't come through. Auburn, but I do have Iowa State. Iowa State wound up beating LSU yesterday. So they're playing Wisconsin the next round. I have Iowa State was one of my dark horses going to the Elite Eight. They were supposed to play Iowa. Sad. Sad. All right. South bracket's not looking too bad. I had Colorado State beating Michigan. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. I had Loyola Chicago beating Ohio State. That didn't happen. I had Seton Hall beating TCU. That didn't happen. But Arizona stays in there. I've got Arizona going to the Final Four and winning the whole shebang-a-bang. So I'm going to take a moment of silence for not only my bracket, but every bracket out there who has been busted, whether you picked Kentucky or you picked Iowa to go to the Final Four. Gonna have a moment of silence for our brackets. So excuse me for one moment. Okay, moment of silence is over. So if you're in the 518 area, I'm going to be at the Albany Firewolves game tonight, taking videos of what's sure to be what is actually a very big game because it's for playoff position in the National Lacrosse League. They're currently a half game behind the Georgia Swarm, who, guess what? They played tonight at the MVP Arena. So it's a big game for them. Now, the Firewolves can also win a crossover. They can also win a crossover as the fifth seed in the East, but they'll act as a fourth seed in the West because the West right now is not looking too good. So, standings in the East, the NLLs follows Bandits and Buffaloes in first. They're going to basically win the East unless they fall off the face of the earth in the next 5-6 weeks. Halifax in second at 8-3. The Toronto Rock 8-4. They're half game behind them for the second spot. Georgia Swarm 6-6. Albany's at 6-7. Philadelphia Wings at 5-7. They're a game behind the Firewolves. New York Riptide and Rochester Nighthawks, they're both sitting at 3-8. Out west, San Diego, they're 8-2. Colorado, they're a game and a half behind them at 7-4. Vancouver's at 5-7. And Calgary and Panther City, or Calgary's at 4-6. Panther City's at 4-8. Saskatchewan, they're at 3-9, which is kind of disappointing because I expected them to be one of the better teams out west this past season. So if you're in the 518 area and you need something to do tonight, it's pretty cheap options where you don't have to wear a mask or present proof of vaccination. Get yourself down in the MVP Arena. I'll be out there. I'll be doing some pictures. I'll be doing some photos. So, all right, folks, that's gonna do it for me. There's my personal Twitter handle, which is who is at RyanMCC. But if you want to follow No Credentials Required on social media, right down below. Twitter and Instagram at NoCredsREQ, Facebook.com/NoCredsREQ, and YouTube, No Credentials Required. Just do a search. If you're watching on YouTube, thanks for joining me. If you're watching on BellyUp.tv, thanks for joining me with your cup of coffee. By the way, 518, if you're in the 518 area, Iron Roost, Boston Spa, one of the hidden gems of the Capital District area, Capital Region area, for there's a 10th. It's actually the 10th anniversary this month, next month. So good on them. So if you're looking for nice waffles or a nice breakfast, go to Iron Roost. Not a paid endorsement. This is a friend endorsement. Okay, folks, thanks for joining me on this live edition of No Credentials Required. I've been your host, Ryan McCarthy. This has been No Credentials Required, where you don't need a press pass to talk sports. We'll talk to you again next time.